It's better in writing. I wrote Netflixmas on Twitter, and it worked out well, but it doesn't really when you say it out loud. But those Netflix Christmas games, which featured a couple blowouts, they were tight, a little early, and then the kind of better teams won out in the end, including in the first game, we had a Chiefs victory over the Steelers, 29-10. Chiefs clinched that number 1 seed. They are now 15-1, which I don't know if you guys know this, but 15-1 is a pretty good record.
Pretty good.
that's like best record in the NFL. That's like a historically good record, and really a record that a lot of people are trying to find critiques on. And then we're all realizing, I think right now, that this Chiefs team is building up and ramping up and doing their thing where they turn it all on in December. I have a red zone play I want to break down from this game, which was a Russell Wilson interception where George Pickens did not run a route. And I'll explain for the YouTube viewers why that was important, break it down, a little X's and O's, a little scheme stuff. But Charles, when you were watching this game, your review of it, what'd you think about the Chiefs? What'd you think about the Steelers? Maybe how they're looking for the rest of the season, 2 weeks, or really 1 week, and then the playoffs.
I think Netflix miss was perfect because you got miss in there, which they did with both of these games. I mean, it was like
I know the production was good. Like, at least that
the production was great. Yes, the production was great. Our friend
video
was
quality.
Great. It was awesome. Yep. But this game, like, I guess this is true for both these games, but I don't know why this one especially. It felt like watching the Chiefs, or not the Chiefs, the Steelers just get like slowly wrapped by a boa constrictor, and by the end of the game, you're just like, oh man, these guys don't have anything for what the Chiefs are bringing them. And you can't even really use like the George Pickens excuse this time because he played. He had some a couple big plays that they usually need to actually get going and score points, but like the points never really came in this one. They lost 29-10. I just looked at their rushing totals, and if you look at the box score, they ran for 200 yards and 6.5 yards an attempt. But dude, go back and watch like the final drive of the game, because I would have to guess that Najee Harris got like 50 of his yards on that last drive. Where
got some cheapies at.
Yeah. I don't remember if it was JJ Watt in the booth or whoever said it, but they nailed it when they said that final drive looked like a clip from the Pro Bowl, where, dude, like the game's over, the Chiefs are up by 3 scores. Mike Tomlin, they're not even flags. Right, dude, they're not even calling timeouts. The Steelers had 3 timeouts on the final drive. They were down by 19 points. They didn't call a single one, like the offensive line, defensive line, they weren't even engaging with each other. They're playing like pillow hands, like, oh my God, like let me just get home, get back to this plane so I can salvage whatever is left of this Christmas. So I just thought it was kind of what we knew about the Steelers. They don't have enough juice probably to beat the top teams in the AFC. Patrick Mahomes was absolutely on fire in this one. That was probably one of his better games of the season. And now you look back at the last few games, like, hey, Chiefs look pretty good, rolling back in the right direction right as the playoff starts. And like Ned said at the start, they are 15-1. 15-1. It's really, really hard to do that in the NFL. Even if you're a flawed team, to win 15 games and only lose one time is pretty difficult. So watch out. Watch out.
Everyone, there's all the stats like, oh, they haven't scored more than 30 and they're 15-1. Look how lucky they are. No, they just dominate. Like this is a team complementary football. Geez, I can talk today. But that's really just how they're playing. The defense is really good against the run and good enough against the pass, and they can make it hard if you don't have a top passing game, which the Steelers don't. I don't think anyone would be offended if I say that. And I think they're good enough against the run that usual thorn doesn't go against them. They're not. The defense is good even without Chris Jones out there. It's not to the extent of last year, which felt like a legit top 3 unit. This one feels more top 6, top 8, good to very good as opposed to elite. But they're still good. And then they still have Mahomes, and they still have a good run game, and now they have Joe Tooney at left tackle. Okay, we just shored up that huge thorn in our side. Wow. All right. So now what are the other answers? Now they got Hollywood Brown and they're getting him involved. Okay. So they're getting better as they're 15-1. That's why they're a team that's probably one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. I did think like that first drive by the Steelers, I was like, oh yeah, this is your formula. Like they had a bunch of great runs to Jalen Warren, who should get 80% of the touches from the backfield, as he should have the whole year, as he's been healthy. Beautiful go ball to George Pickens. And then I believe they scored. It got called on a holding from by Darnell Washington. And then Russ throws the interception on the next play. And that's the one where it's 4 verts concept. And I tweeted it. I was like, at first I thought just something else happened. And then I realized Pickens didn't run a route. I thought it was just Justin Reed. When I first saw the play happen, I thought I was going to highlight Reed and go, wow, look how aware he is, man. Just cutting off this play. Like, that's really impressive. Like, really high awareness play because he's one of the smartest defenders, yada, yada. And then I realized George Pickens just didn't run a route. And people want to argue with me like, oh, why did Russ just throw it then? It's like, well, it's the red zone. And in the red zone, you throw it. Like you can't hesitate. There's no room to hesitate. So you have to assume some things. And I'm sure they had that play perfectly game planned. 4 strong, all this stuff, bunch formation. And then Reed is a cover 2 backside safety. And Pickens just gets pressed against McDuffie and just stops running his route. So Reed's like, okay, I'm just going to go over here to the trip side and picks off the route. So look bad on the tail end, but that's why you need all 4 routes. This is why receivers have to run full speed, because even if you're not, it's the line they like to say is for the love of the game. But that's what you have to do, because if Pickens runs his go route, it's 4 verts. People are going, how do you know what the concept is? I can guarantee you it's 4 verts. I just know what this concept is, which is great talking to you about it. But the Pickens being the lone receiver, he has to run outside against McDuffie, who's a cover 2 corner. And that's called must outside release. And when he goes outside there, that holds Reed because they're clouding him. They're double teaming Pickens essentially. But if he doesn't do anything, then Reed can do whatever he wants. And it's just, these are the details of football. Like these are people think receivers think this. Oh, I don't have to run here. And then once they get to the
some
NFL,
of them are
realize,
coached that nowadays in some of these offenses.
And it's the Bryles offense.
The Corey Coleman tape is what comes to mind when I think about that.
They just literally don't have a route. Like they just stand there, just take a break. And you can't do that in the NFL. It's all these details matter, because if one guy doesn't do anything, the other team is so smart, they'll take advantage of it. And on defense, if a guy isn't in his gap, boom, run game, boom, they just pop it for a touchdown. So it was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it looks terrible for Russ. And like, I'm not here defending Russ on this. I'm just saying that these details matter. And that's why the Steelers offense, it's like even their most important player is also causing damage for them as well. So I still like the Steelers defense. I think the offense is still frisky, better than it's been in the last few years, obviously, but kind of showed the tier difference between a true contender like the Chiefs and what the Steelers are, which is a playoff team. But can they win a game? We'll see.
The last thing I had on that, it's always so funny when people get upset about that. Like, how dare Russell Wilson think his teammate's going to run the route he's supposed to run? Like,
people
that's his damn job.
Routes. Like that, they're not. That's his job. People really think that, though. I had someone quote tweet me and go, "Quarterback's always making excuses." And then I was like, and then meanwhile, Terrell Owens is also like blaming Pickens on that. It's like Nate Burleson and JJ did a great job.
Yeah,
JJ Watt, they really did. And Nate, right after the thing, he pointed it out right away. I saw it, he saw it, and he was like, yeah, he's got to run his route. Reed can just do what he did right there. And people are still arguing, going like, Russ there, man, how do you know that? How can you assume? Someone goes, it was probably an out route because Pickens wouldn't run that. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever you guys got it all figured out.
An out route with 3 verts on the other side. You're asking Justin Simmons or Justin Reed to just make the play there.
Out route with 3 verts and against a cloud corner. They're like, no one runs an out route against cover 2. No one has to move. Pushes them.
Yeah,
I know. So, yeah, that was an interesting play. But going on to the afternoon Christmas game, that was the Ravens winning 31-2 against the Texans. Whew. You have some history of losing games as a Falcons fan. 2 points. That was a very funny tweet. What was that? The Giants 2011 Falcons playoff game.
Season, yeah. I think the Falcons
wasn't there like a failed 4th down that was really significant in that game?
Probably. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember they were like one of the few teams in NFL history to not have a turnover or a sack in a game and still not score any points on offense.
Such a Falcons stat.
Yeah, because I remember the one thing I remember was Jonathan Badden, though, he got a safety one of the first drives of the game. And then the Falcons didn't score again, and the Giants scored 24 straight points. And that was like going into my senior spring of high school, and I was like, damn, I'm kind of over this team. Like, this is pretty trash. And then they had
Here
the
we are,
season
13 years later.
Right. 13 years later, because like the next season, like I was like, I'm gonna be in college. But then that was the year they went on the run and they played the 49ers in the NFC title game. So I was back in, and then, boom, 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 28-3 happens, and here we are.
Here we are. Well, yeah, no, you could do anything about the Falcons. We'll talk about them in a sec. But yeah, that I was glad you tweeted that, because I was like, I feel like they're losing with only 2 points. It feels worse than getting skunked for some reason.
I agree.
Yeah. When you watch this though, what was your takeaway? Like, what really do you think that, I mean, this is a pretty good snapshot of what's kind of going on with the Texans right now, I think. But like, what were some of your takeaways with this? Ravens, of course, impressive, but some of your negative takeaways maybe from the Texans.
Man, like the front seven play, front seven and I guess O-line play for Texans is like, that was embarrassing.
Trench play.
Trench play for both sides of the ball was really bad. Because I think that the Texans, they fell into, well, the Ravens, they don't need to actually drop back and throw the ball a bunch to score points. Because what Lamar had, like, he threw the ball 15 times yesterday. He did get 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's only sacked 1 time on those 15 pass attempts. But it's like, dude, if the Texans are in a spot where the team they're playing doesn't have to fear their pass rush, they're probably just going to get absolutely demolished. Because as we've talked about, like the middle of that defense, like the spine of that defense, especially in the front seven, it's just weak. It's just weak. So when you play, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and both of those guys combined are rushing for over 200 yards against you. Keaton Mitchell pitching with another 20. You had what was like a 50-yard Lamar Jackson rush for a touchdown. Derrick Henry had a few big runs. It was just so hard for them to get off the field that, no one thought that at this point in the season, I don't think anyone thought that they were like a serious contender. But to see them just get run off the field in such a physical, dominating manner was, you're like, man, you guys are a lot farther away than probably you think you are going into next season. Or maybe that than even most people thought they were. Even people who were detractors against the Texans. I don't know if they saw them looking like this bad really at any point in the season. So on the flip side, on offense, you're not pass protecting well. You can't block like simple ET stunts, like high school stuff. Guys are coming, like untouched. Shout out Kyle Van Noy. Coworker,
coworker Van Noy.
Coworker Kip Van Noy. He hit 11 or 12 sacks for the season this week, which is pretty crazy. And one of them, they just didn't block him. You got to take what you can get. But I think for the Texans, that's pretty alarming that you should have a lot of these like protection problems shored up that you don't have, especially with what you spent on the offensive line. Like Laremy Tunsil's getting paid. You paid Titus Howard. You drafted Juice Druggs. You drafted Kenyon Green. I mean, come on. You should be a lot better than this, and they're not. I think that's pretty alarming for where they want to be next year.
They were a dark horse team or a sleeper team for a lot of people as maybe a team that can get hot in the AFC. And I think what you're getting at is exactly right, where it's like, oh no, they're not a bad team, but they have way more things to figure out than just one little ad. It's not like, oh, they just had to get healthy and they got unlucky there, or oh no, they really need a tight end, or they need a guard or something like that. It's like, no, they need multiple linemen. They need a new offensive line coach, in my opinion. They need, healthy receivers, of course, which Tank Dell sadly doesn't. That's a significant injury. It was a Sean Livingston-esque injury, essentially. By the way, Sean Livingston is my neighbor in Vegas. Him and I go to the same breakfast spot all the time. So yeah,
nice.
He actually commented on my son. And he said, he goes, you better get him dribbling, And I was like, oh no, I will. Sean Livingston, I will.
Sean Livingston, I will.
I will. 6-7 point guard. Yeah. Can I get him with you? No, but it's significant injury for Tank Dell. And I think that a lot is being made about their pass catchers and everything, but it's the line. That's the story of the season for the Texans, which we knew was a weakness going into the year, but it was like by math, it just looked like it had to improve. And no, it definitely has not. It's one of the worst run games in the NFL. Stroud's under duress. Stroud is missing throws now because he just feels like he has to get rid of the ball earlier than maybe even when he is clean. So that's just a trickle down of a whole season of getting his ass kicked. The offensive line, you mentioned it. Shoot, the scheme botches is what gets you about the Texans offensive line. When you lose one-on-ones, it is what it is. Like, you see a guy's just losing. That happens. Like, that happens all the time in the NFL. But when guys are just going the wrong way and it's vets that are paid, that signifies to me that there's a game planning issue or a teaching issue. If it's just one guy losing all the time, like the Bears right guard, I'm blanking on his name, number 79, botches all the time. But then I watch the other four guys and they actually look okay. So that's why I've been a little bit more like, hey, the Bears offensive line's a little better than I think made it out to be. But then I watch the Texans, it's like, okay, Shaq Mason is mentally messing up. Laramie Tunsil is mentally messing up. And I know Shaq's gotten hurt, they've reconfigured the line, but it's like, man, that you can't win that way. Like, it's not just losing by talent. You're losing by scheme with talent not getting there anyways. Like I said, and then Stroud does what he can, but if he's not on, if he misses a couple throws, it turns into a game like this. They can't run the ball. Can't rely on anything like that. Can't run screens. Can't protect. And then on defense, it was the worst stylistic matchup for them possible. You got a light bodies. Texans love being in 5 DBs against with gap shooters up front against an offense that can steamroll you, that is fine going big bodies and just running down your throat. The Texans have allowed the highest explosive run rate. They're 31st in rushing success rate going into this game. And then I don't think those numbers got any better going against the Ravens, who are the best run game in the NFL, or one of the best, any way you shake it. So I did also want to shout out, we've hinted at this, touched on this a little bit last week, is that because Ravens have played 2 games in a week, is that ever since they moved Kyle Hamilton back to deep safety, it's totally changed their defense. And I looked up again, their first defensive pass success rate since they did this in week 10. They were 23rd before they made the change. They're 7th in EPA per dropback. They were 30th before they made this change. They were 10th in explosive pass rate. They were 32nd in that before they made this change. That's a league-altering personnel change, not just a team-altering, but that changes the whole landscape. Because now, what have we been talking about the Ravens this whole year? Love their offense, love their run defense. They give up like 10 explosive passes a game. I don't know if you can win that way. Now, now they can. So now they're a contender to me, like a true locked-in contender. That's good for them. The Ravens looked like a contender. The Texans looked like they still have plenty to figure out this offseason. Any more on this game? It just kind of, the Ravens just kind of took care of it. That's all that happened.
Yeah, I guess I'll be interested to see if the Texans make any shakeups on their coaching staff. Because dude, like the one play that stands out to me, like we just talked about the Van Noy sack on the ET twist. Like, dude, are you guys like not speaking to each other on the field? Because like that's something that JV players can figure out. So that was pretty alarming. Like how much unblocked pressure. And I think during the broadcast, I said that CJ Stroud is one of the leaders in unblocked pressures faced, or quick pressures faced that are unblocked from the interior, that's no good. And he's a good quarterback. I've seen a lot of people saying, what's wrong with him? I think at this point he's just punch drunk, but it's not so bad that you can't get back moving in the right direction next year. Like, we've just seen too much good out of him.
Yeah. And then he's got just a little antsiness right now, but if they shore it up, like you say, a lot hinges on who they're, I don't know if they do anything at OC, but maybe if they change OCs, but definitely they have to change the line coach, because I've not heard anything. This is just me watching it. You can't keep going this way, especially with what they have invested there. And it's a domino effect right now. A lot's being made about the pass catchers. I keep saying this. The Texans offensive line is the whole story of their season. So if you don't bring that up first before you talk about Stroud, or why this guy is not getting the yards, or why they're not winning, or why they're putting up 2 points, and you're not bringing up the offensive line, you're kind of missing the big story with this team right now. So Ravens contenders, Texans not really. And that is it for the Christmas games this year. Luckily, we don't have to face any Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday games, or Tuesday, Wednesday games, I think, for a few years. So, phew. But we are going to take a quick break, and then we are going to get a deep dive into our big games from week 17.
Introducing Daily Draw, the latest free-to-play game from Yahoo Sports. Daily Draw gives you a pack of 6 prediction cards every day based on the day's biggest sporting event. Download or update the Yahoo Sports app on the Apple App Store or Google Play and join the action with Daily Draw today.
All right, we are back. Let's get into the deep dives for Week 17. That was good. I was just, what was the movie, submarine movie with freaking Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman, as Google hears me? Crimson Tide. Have you seen Crimson Tide?
I'm sure I have at some point because I got locked on Denzel movies a while back.
Oh, you should. It's peak Denzel, where he's the smartest guy in the room in every scene. Yeah, it's peak Denzel. And Gene Hackman's a great heel in it too. So yeah, highly recommend it. Yeah, I've got Viggo Mortensen's in it.
James Gandolfini's in it too. So.
Yes, he is. No, definitely check it out. Very, very good movie. Anyways, let's get into it. We got Broncos at Bengals. Bengals are 3-point favorites. This is our Haas fight of the week. Every time. Big smile on our faces every time. After that one, we get the double soundbar here. Yes. Bengals offense, Broncos defense. This deserves our Haas fight of the week. We have one of the best offenses in the NFL, one of the best defenses in the NFL going against each other. Other side of the ball, maybe we'll talk about in a sec. But anyways, when you're watching this game, Charles, which has some playoff significance, the Bengals are fighting for their lives. Broncos have to win out they have a stranglehold on their playoff lead, but they still have to win out to clinch it. What are you checking out in this game? I don't think they even have to win one game. They don't have to win out. They have to win one game and they make the playoffs. But when you're checking out this game, what are some of the things that you are checking out?
Yeah, I think specifically this game too. We'll certainly knock the Bengals out of playoff contention if they lose. But the Broncos are also right on the cusp of clinching that spot for themselves, which is pretty impressive because a lot of people thought they were just going to suck this season. And they're competent. They're a real football team. They don't suck.
They don't suck.
They don't suck, The defense is really good. The defense is really good. I just want to see if Joe Burrow can continue to stand tall against, some of the shortcomings that his offensive line is placing in front of him. Because I think that there's going to be a lot of that this week too. I've been looking at stats since the Bengals bye, week 11 bye. They are, basically top 5 offense, top 10 offense, no matter which way you want to cut it. Except when it comes to pressure rate allowed since week 12, they're 17th. The Broncos are first in pressure rate, 44%. 44% of opposing dropbacks are under pressure for the Broncos over the last month. So we know that those are situations that Joe Burrow...
that's what the Patriots have allowed this year for perspective.
Yeah. So they got dudes running for their lives. But if there's any quarterback that I'd say that's probably been equipped for some of that is Burrow. I don't have his pressures numbers right in front of me, but just anecdotally speaking, he's been absolutely insane with some of the work that he's done under duress. We talked about the Cowboys game a couple of times. He had a play this weekend where he was literally falling down and threw a pass to T. Higgins for a touchdown. So he's playing MVP football. It hasn't mattered too much as far as it wins, or maybe we should frame it as imagine how bad they would be if they didn't have Joe Burrow on their roster, because he has covered up so much. Their offense in general has allowed this defense to exist, and for them to even have a last dying chance at the playoffs at the end of the season, I think is a testament to what he's done. So really, I just want to see when Joe Burrow has the ball, there's going to be pressure in his face. It's going to be tough sledding throwing against the cornerbacks and the defensive backs that the Broncos have. But I really just want to see if he can kind of continue the Herculean performances that he's had. Because I don't think there's anything that's more interesting really in professional sports than when a great team or a great player, they just have to have something, their backs against the wall, they're trying to get it, and that's where the Bengals are as far as their playoff hopes. So, you have a really tough test as far as Denver's defense goes, but he's been standing up to these challenges for the vast majority of the season. So I want to see him do it again.
Yeah, agreed. This is him shooting his way out, especially this matchup. The Broncos would lock it up with a win. If they lose, their playoff chances go down to 58%. They could still win, but they play the Chiefs week 18, which could be interesting with Chiefs sitting guys, all those types of things. The Bengals are at 4%. It goes to 6% with a win, and then 8% if they win out. So it's a small chance in hell, but there's still a chance that this could happen. But everything that you just broke down, that's why this game is our kind of our hoss fight. Is you got a Broncos defense that is fourth in DVOA, which is adjust for opponent, is weighed more. They have a weighted stat too. They're highly ranked in that as far as recent play, second in pressure rate overall, second in pressure rate. You said first since that time period, second in sacks. They're second in run stuff rate, second in EPA per rush, first in EPA per pass, first in EPA per play, first in every success rate metric, first, second, everything. And then that Bengals offense, like you said, top 5 in everything. Rushing success rate, not as successful. They're 28th right now, which is interesting. But they live and die with Burrow at the controls, nickel and diming, doing what a lot of quarterbacks wish they could do, which is do that kind of Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, and Green Bay impression where they're in the gun every snap and pointing, shooting, and actually being that sheriff cowboy quarterback. But a lot of them can't do it, but Burrow can. But I just think this is a great, hoss fight. That's why we brought it up. It's a great stylistic matchup. Usually hoss fights are the trenches. Broncos more or less have that. But, going with this Bengals team, they have it on the outside. They have it with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase going against Patrick Surtain II, and Riley Moss, who's back from injury, which is a big deal. Broncos are remarkably healthy, which is significant going into this. So, I just wanted to highlight this game because it's just such a fun stylistic matchup on this side of the ball. The other side of the ball is, it's all right. But you got you have a bottom 5 Bengals defense who are bottom 5 against the run, especially. They're 32nd in rushing success rate allowed, 30th in sacks per pass attempt, 24th in pressure rate. They don't blitz that much. Going against a Broncos team who, I said they have a good run game. Broncos fans don't agree with me, but they're 13th in a running back rushing success rate, which is ahead of the Eagles, by the way. But this is a great opportunity for them to have a clean path. Run the ball, keep it nice and easy for Bo Nix. They don't blitz a lot. They don't get a ton of pressure, a little bit on 3rd and 4th down with Hendrickson. But this is a good game for them to control the game script. I'm sure Sean Payton is just licking his chops about the opening script. But I just a real smooth game plan for them on that side of the ball. But man, the other side with Bengals offense, Broncos defense, it's just going to be a fun Vance Joseph, Broncos Banshees versus Joe Burrow and these receivers in passing game. Be a really pretty fun house fight.
When you look at our mock draft or you look at any other mock draft that comes out, over the next few months, you're probably going to see a defensive player in that spot for the Bengals in the first round. And there's a good reason for that. Kenneth Grant this week.
Yes, that was a good one.
Well, I mean, if I watch the Bengals right now, the first thing I think they need is oh my God, you just need someone to fight in the middle. Just put up a fight, a literal fist fight if it comes to it, because they are getting dog walked every week. It doesn't matter who's out there. Yeah, sometimes I feel like you and me could go put out a deuce block on whoever they got on. At 3 seconds, you can just walk them back to 2 linebacker. It's really bad. It's really bad. So if I'm a Broncos fan who's getting a little antsy at some of the recent offensive performances of what the Broncos have put forward, at least this is a good get right game as you go into the playoffs. Now, every team you play moving forward won't have a defense as bad as the Bengals, but it's a good starting spot to at least start to get back into some productive practices on offense. Because even you look over the past month for the Broncos, this looks like just a pretty soft matchup. They're 25th success rate, 27th dropback success rate, 29th percentage of plays that are first downs to touchdown, 25th in yards per play. So they're performing a bottom 7, bottom 5-ish offense right now. No reason to look like that against the Bengals. So if you can't get this right, you're probably looking like a real one and done team once the playoffs start.
Right. This is a nice little mouthwash game, and then they go against the Chiefs, who are probably sitting their starters. It's like, okay, ramp up for the playoffs. That's like a perfect little ramp up into it. I think someone put out like who would they be playing against if the season ended today. Obviously, I could just look that up. It was that they would play the Bills.
Yes,
which would be another interesting stylistic matchup. Yeah. Especially how the Bills defense has looked lately. It's kind of opposite. Them against the pass is not as great. Yeah. So that we'll cross that bridge in a few weeks before we get ahead of ourselves. All right. Before we wrap this game up, predictions for Bengals, Broncos. Bengals are 3-point favorites at home.
This is tough. I think I'm going to roll with the Broncos just because I think they can get maybe one or two stops that the Bengals don't get that get them across the finish line. But this is going to be a close one. It's a pretty good game.
I think I'm going to go Bengals here, but that's close. I think it's going to be, but I think it's going to be more, there's going to be a nice little shootout here. I think the Bengals are going to get after them a little bit. The Chargers were able to get after this defense a little bit. So I'm going to go with the Bengals here, but I think it's going to be a fun one. All right. Going on to our next game, a game that's near and dear to my heart from my childhood. We have the Packers at the Vikings. The Vikings are 1-point underdogs at home, despite battling for that number 1 seed right now. Vikings win this game. The NFC North will be decided when they face Detroit in Week 18. Jair Alexander, even though he practiced, is going to be out because whatever. You will figure it out at some point in the future. I'm sure a story will come out about it. Ivan Pace is potentially back for the Vikings at linebacker. Harrison Smith did not participate in practice on Wednesday, but should be playing. Christian Watson did not participate. I think they didn't practice, but they just kind of like estimated that he did not participate. Evan Williams, the rookie defensive back for the Packers, did not participate as well. But man, I am stoked for this game. I have a lot of notes, but before I take up all the air, Charles, Packers offense, Vikings defense, what are you checking out on this side of the ball? Jordan Love against Brian Flores.
Well, I'm kind of looking at similar things on both sides, like as far as like both offenses are concerned, and I just want to see if the Packers and the Vikings, if their recent run game trends continue, because this is just looking at since the Packers bye, which is a week 10, so all these numbers are since week 11. The Packers are second in success rate rushing the ball. Vikings are 20th. The Packers are 5th in EPA per rush. The Vikings are 24th. The Packers are 5th in terms of percent of rushes that go for 0 or negative yards. The Vikings are 24th again in that. So the Vikings run game, it hasn't quite lived up to I think the standard they had built earlier in the season, where it seemed like that was just such a big, a piece of their offense that could kind of help get their play action game going, because you have to take the run game as a credible threat, or at least just address it up in a credible manner. So it's been interesting, I think, seeing over the past couple of weeks, like how the Vikings offense has evolved. And I think a lot of it is it seems like Sam Darnold is just closing his eyes at times and just saying, Jordan's down there somewhere, Justin's down there somewhere, and it's honestly not a bad bet to make. So if Jair Alexander isn't going to play and the Vikings can't run the ball and they're struggling in that manner, I wonder if that's the spot where the Vikings can just start taking chunks of yards off the field at a time. So I wonder if the Packers kind of lean on their run game, which has been dominant recently, just to stabilize the game and maybe take some of the chaotic chunk plays that the Vikings are going to go after out of it, because I think the recent trends suggest that the Packers are probably playing a little bit better than the Vikings, just on a down per down basis, play per play basis, and the run game is going to be really key for both sides. I really like what the Packers are doing on their side of the ball. Think they have some of the coolest run game designs in the league, especially how they're using motion to bring guys in the backfield, and then just for a split second, you have what a normal offense looks like, but right in the lead up to that, there's a lot going on for the defense to look at. So I'm tentatively in favor of the Packers this week. They're running the ball really well. Jordan Love's playing out of his mind, but if they can just avoid some of the third downs where they're going to come after you, and that's where they've struggled some this year, they should be all right on that side of the ball for the Packers.
Yeah, I looked at this and it was The Packers, I kind of did the same thing. The Packers are so young. And after last year, they had a big splits after their bye week and after a mini bye week. And then this year, I was kind of expecting them to do the same thing. And sure enough, they've turned into a top 5 offense. And you did the run game stuff, even pass game stuff. Same stuff. They're third in EPA per play, fourth in overall success rate, explosive play rate, yards per play. So everything you just painted out is that this Packers team is ascending and peaking at the right time. Totally makes narrative sense when you remember that they're the youngest team. They're like, oh yeah, young guys get better. Arrow point up, disco stew to the moon. But I love this stylistic matchup of Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur, that offense going against the Brian Flores defense, which makes you do the big boy things at quarterback. And that's why it was kind of cool watching Geno do it last week. It wasn't all perfect, but I thought the Seahawks and Geno actually got after the Vikings defense at moments. They caught them other times, obviously with turnovers and everything, but they were, able to move the ball and hit some chunk plays. So I kind of looked at the previous matchups between Love and Flores, and I know I just say Flores, and I'm just talking about 11 Vikings defenders. It's like he's just the button Vikings defense. I just say Flores, but Jordan Love will push the ball. He pushes the ball far anyways. He pushes the ball even further against the Vikings defense, about 2 yards further than he has normally, over 10 yards per pass attempt, air yards per pass attempt against the Vikings defense for the last 2 years. Success rate's been about the same. What was really interesting was when they played in week 4 this year, the Brian Flores ran more zone coverage than he ever has as a Vikings defense coordinator in 2 years. They didn't run a single snap of true man coverage of cover 1. They did some other hybrid stuff, but they blitzed about the typical rate, a lot of quarters. The Vikings jumped out to a huge lead in that game, 28-0. The Packers chipped back, ended up with Love had a wonky stat line, like 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks, just a crazy stat line because they're just chucking it. But I thought it was really interesting that they ran so much zone, especially going against the Packers defense or Packers offense, where you don't know who their number one pass catcher is every week, which helps against zone. And sure enough, Jordan Love against zone, top 5 in every rate, success rate 5th, EPA per dropback 3rd most touchdowns, 2nd in yards per attempt, only behind Lamar, 2nd in average depth of completion. So this is, again, a matchup Jordan Love is fine with. Oh, okay, I'm going to hang in the pocket. He doesn't take sacks. He's only taken 4 since their bye week. Push back, push the ball. You're going to see a lot of dagger concepts. That's how you have to get after this Vikings defense. Love likes doing it, and the Packers offense likes doing it. And like you said, they're good at running the ball. So this is the formula to get after this Vikings defense. And I thought it was really significant. It's funny, in our group chat, Derek Klassen and I at the exact same time had the same stats about Jordan Love against the blitz before and after bye week. Before the bye week, Love was 33rd in the NFL in success rate against the blitz. He was 34th in EPA per dropback, negative 0.44 EPA per dropback against the blitz. So basically negative half a point every time he got blitzed before their bye week. He was only above Deshaun Watson. And this is not in my head how I picture Love in the Packers offense. And then you look after the bye week, 0.33 EPA per dropback against the blitz, first in the NFL. Would rank first if it was the whole season. Success rate is 5th at 52%. Lamar, by the way, for the entire season is at 57% against the blitz, which is bonkers, which is like one of the highest numbers I can remember, which just speaks to what Lamar is doing. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about Lamar, by the way, in our Ravens breakdown game. Oh yeah, Lamar put on an MVP performance. We should also talk about that too. But yeah, he's really good, guys. He pushes it past the sticks on 3rd down. It's just a fun style matchup. It's just a defense that makes you play like a big quarterback. And Jordan Love's like, okay, Kobe, that's what he's going to do every single snap. So, and then also the other thing too, I looked at, there's 2 other things. I dove so deep into this game. I was so excited. Vikings versus play action, very boom bust. Give up top 6 in explosive passes against play action. Packers run a ton of play action, one of the highest rates in the NFL. Vikings versus receiver runs. Packers with Jayden Reed run more receiver runs than anybody. They've got more explosive runs off receiver runs than anybody, twice as many as the number 2 team. Vikings, 31st in the NFL against receiver runs, 20% explosive play rate against receiver runs. So, because they're so fast and they just go every which way and they really key in. So that's the thing that the Vikings make you do. You have to trust your changeups. all right, we're going to run this. It might go negative. Okay, we got it. Okay, good. Okay, reverse work there. Okay, we're going to run this play action. We got to turn her back. Okay, it worked there. So I just think the Packers, we use this term, have natural answers against this Vikings defense. Also, I have a prediction. Look for a little Luke Musgrave down the seam. A little Luke Musgrave seam ball. That's my prediction for this game. Something down the middle, Luke Musgrave. So just wanted to throw that one out there. Going on the other side of the ball, also a very fun matchup. You got the Vikings offense, Packers defense. You hinted at some of it, but this Packers defense, though, has been quite good since their bye week. They have been top 4 or 5 in every metric I look at. They're third in yards per play allowed, third in EPA per dropback allowed. They're fourth in weighted DVOA, fourth in EPA per play allowed. Very, very good, well-playing defense. I know you kind of hinted at this side of the ball. Any other kind of thoughts here? You were talking more about the run game and stuff, but anything the Packers can kind of throw out this Vikings offense that really can hit chunk plays on anybody?
Man, you might just have to blitz this week. Just force Sam Darnold into doing something maybe he doesn't want to do to speed up his process a little bit, because I mean, just to keep it honest, it's not like the Packers have any cornerbacks without Jair Alexander that are going to be able to run with Jefferson and Addison. I think it's been a real problem point for them, and it's something that concerns me, moving forward in the playoffs, because that's just a big game changer for them. I don't really understand if they're just keeping him on ice, like until he gets healthy, or now that they've clinched a spot, because he has been like, he hasn't been someone who's played a whole lot of football over the past couple seasons. So maybe they're just being, they're being safe with this and not trying to get him hurt. But man, if he's not out there for this game, that's a big problem point. And if he's not out there moving forward, that's a big problem point, because the Rockets' cornerback room isn't necessarily great. So yeah, I do think the Packers maybe win this one closely, but that's the point where they're gonna have to figure out some way that they can force negative plays in the passing game, and maybe you have to take that risk and just blitz and try to blow it all up to get there.
Yeah, it was so interesting to me the first time these teams played. I was like, Jeff Hafley, defense coordinator for Packers, is a cover 3 guy. And I was like, you're going to go cover 3 against Justin Jefferson? And would you know, they got shredded when they did it. And Addison got a touchdown, Jefferson got a touchdown, both against single high, both against single coverage on the outside. Kind of want to shy away from that. And this is what's been really interesting to me with the Packers. And I kind of talked about this before, but they have now evolved into a cover 2 team as their changeup. Since their bye week, they have run cover 2 at the highest rate in the NFL. It's at 28%. They were 15% before the bye week, which is like middle of the pack. So they run cover 3, cover 2, cover 3, cover 2, and they just switch back and forth between the two, and they hide it really well. McKinney does a really good job of hiding it. They do some invert stuff. You can see Geno Smith get caught a couple times against it. And that to me is interesting, because that's what you usually play against Justin Jefferson. You want to cloud his side. You do not want to single up Justin Jefferson. So it's kind of all right, well, Packers actually have a better answer than they did the first time around, but you still have to do it. You still have to guard Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson, which is the other thing about this cover 2 kind of defense that I told you guys, just dove deep into this stuff. I kept pulling out a thread and I was like, ooh, that's interesting. The Packers defense actually really good against number 2 receivers. They're 6th in DVOA against receiver 2s. Okay, what about tight ends? 18th in DVOA against tight ends. 1st in targets per game, 7th in yards allowed per game to tight ends, 31st in success rate allowed to tight ends, 62% success rate allowed to tight end targets. Hawkinson is pretty dang good. All right, where does Sam Darnold throw the ball against cover 2? Who does he target? I looked at the target share. Once Justin Jefferson, number 1, 23%. TJ Hawkinson, number 2, 22.5%. Addison's all the way down at 13%. So look for some TJ Hawkinson targets this game. And that's even more interesting to me. I told you guys, I keep pulling at this thread. Edgerrin Cooper is back for the Packers and has been a total needle mover for this defense at linebacker. That matters because he's going to be guarding linebackers, or guarding tight ends. So it's just the Packers have found better answers. I don't think they're an elite defense, even if the numbers are pointing to top 5, top 6, but they're above average to good, which is different than when I viewed them before their bye week, which is like average-ish. So stuff to build on. This is a great matchup for them. I think it's just going to be a really, really interesting one. And then last stat, I'm so sorry, Charles, I just took up all this time, but Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson, when they're on the field, the Vikings throw the ball 80% of the time. Okay. 80% of the time they throw the ball. They're a truck first team. They have a third highest success rate, explosive play rate. They're first in EPA per play in the NFL when those three are healthy and on the field at the same time. So again, you got a fully weaponized offense. Offensive line's a little leaky for the Vikings going against a Packers defense playing their best ball. Very, very excited for this game. If you guys couldn't tell for that full in-depth breakdown right there. You already kind of hinted at it. Vikings are 1-point underdogs. Are you going with the Packers here?
Yeah, I'm going to roll the Packers. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it seems pretty even right now, but I think the Packers are a little bit more stable on offense and it's going to give them the edge.
I think of these two teams as two true contenders. Wrote about last week. Two of the top 5 teams remaining. Playoffs haven't even started. I am going with the Packers here, even if it is in Minnesota and everything. But I think this game's gonna be awesome. I'm very excited to watch it. But I'm going with the Packers. But do really like where the Vikings are at right now. My last note is Carl Sheffers. He's the officiating crew for this game. Top 5 in defensive pass interference is called. Number 2 in defensive holding is called. So look for maybe some Jordan Love, Sam Darnold, DPI huntings in this game.
Mr. Look at Me ref. Here we go. Nothing worse.
He is a look at me ref, isn't he? But this is an afternoon game. We don't have to worry about that. national TV game. Look at refs' call rates in national TV games. It's pretty funny to look at. Look at the jump numbers for everybody, especially if your last name ends with Hockley. That usually get a little jump numbers, jump penalty calls when it's a national TV game. But we are going to take our last break, and then we'll come back with Falcons Commanders and our dual slop watch this week. All right, we are back with our last deep dive. A game that got a lot juicier after this last week. Falcons at Commanders. Commanders are 4-point home favorites going against Michael Penix Jr., who is in the playoff hunt. Just gets dropped right in there. Yeah, you're going to be a playoff QB soon. All right, Charles, what are you watching in this game? What are you checking out about your glorious Atlanta Falcons trying to rise up against the Commanders?
Dude, I don't even know. I know historically this is a poison pill for Atlanta because I'm expecting Jaden Daniels to run for like 150 yards in this game. Like, I could be off. The Falcons pass rush is imagining it. I've had this in my brain since before the season started. I know the Falcons, their pass rush is a lot better than it was to start the season. Like, I thought it might have just been like, kind of fake nonsense after they got out there by. Where maybe you figure out some stuff, but no, like Arnold Ebiketti's playing a lot better recently. He's actually put in some good tape out there.
Yes.
Caden Ellis has been a monster on blitzes recently, so they at least have some idea. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it took them 30 games to realize he needs to be moving forward, not backwards. What
Coaches can be rep guys too.
yeah, that is true. But he's a Sam. All of his best reps were the closer he was to the ball, the better he was. The further away he was, the worse it looked. So I just don't know why it took so long for them to actually just stick to a plan for him. But lo and behold, they have a semblance of a pass rush. So maybe they can get after Jaden Daniels a little bit. I'm sure he's still going to make some plays with his legs and be able to get the ball out to, some of his skill players that have had success recently. I think he and Terry McLaurin are really having some cool moments right now where they're on the same page and showing that dynamic where they can actually be a quarterback wide receiver duo that stands tall for the next couple of years. So that'll be tough for them. But obviously the story here is Penix. And they did dust off a lot more play actions looks than they did last week. I think they're at 23% play action usage for the game, which is way higher, significantly higher.
Percent before the game.
Yeah.
So low.
Yeah, for a single game, that was way higher than any usage that they had. up to this point, which just goes to show like what the actual problem was in terms of, holding back some of the schematic stuff on the offense, which we already knew. And luckily for Penix, this isn't the toughest test. I think the Commanders defense is definitely playing better than at the start of the season. They're not just like a total pushover anymore, but it's not going against, like where the Ravens are now or where the Vikings have been or the Broncos or, some of those other top teams that we've talked about. So it's doable. It's doable. I want to see if they can continue to run the ball in the manner they did last week. Bijan Robinson's having an insane year, in a year where Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley have, taken the mantle, and rightfully so. Bijan Robinson's also having an insane season of his own. So, you're going to need to lean on that run game with him and Altier, see if you can call some more play action shots. And then just like last week with Penix, don't make any mistakes, which I don't think he made any, terrible mistakes. Maybe that would cause you to have concern about this week. The only interception you had was the Kyle Pitts drop, who apparently has, Kyle Pitts has the entire world just mad at him for that play. You'd think that he killed someone's like daughter, like or child, the way that people are talking about him on the internet right now. But
I think Arthur Smith got fired again after that.
Yes, seriously. I don't know. The Kyle Pitts stuff is interesting to me because I feel we are all watching him. He's clearly like physically not the same guy he was a couple years ago. And that's to me like where I struggle, like just piling on someone where it's like, damn man, like, all right, you're definitely
75% of what he was. Yeah.
Right. So I kind of struggle with that, but still you should probably catch the ball. So I don't know. Just look clean. I told myself last week I wasn't going to get invested in winning these games, but then the Bucs lost to Dallas. So now I'm like, damn, if you can just get to the playoffs, that would be great. Dude, if you win this week and the Panthers beat the Bucs, which is possible, certainly possible, you're in for the first time since 2017. Like see the thing that
Sark was your offensive coordinator,
dude, right? And he's rebuilt Texas at this point. It's pretty crazy. I don't want to end up like not getting to the playoffs before the Jets do, because you're next up on the list of like teams who haven't been to the playoffs since so-and-so administration. Oh, yeah. Let's just, nip that in the bud. You don't want to be on this list, and then we can actually start caring about winning these games next year. But for this week, just don't look like a joke, man. Just don't look like a joke. Not off the holiday. Come on now.
It's funny. It's I love that's all you're asking. Like, just don't embarrass me. Like,
just look like a
just
joke,
don't embarrass.
dude.
That's it. I know. Just don't embarrass me. Where to go from there? The Falcons. I mean, both of these teams could exercise some demons. I think just obviously the Commanders are roaring to the playoffs and everything, but no, the Falcons definitely could. And making such a big decision, switching quarterbacks and just going like, no, it was the right decision. Will help you feel a lot better, even if you don't pull off the win in this week, which could unravel a whole lot of things. But I did want to talk about, you mentioned it, the Commanders defense has improved, and you feel it a little bit. They haven't played the toughest slate of offense, but even against better offenses, it's not a total pushover. They're still a little iffy against the run, but against the pass, they've been a much better. And that's some of it has been they moved Mike Sanistrell from nickel to outside. And now, since that was in week 8, they did that. They're second in dropback success rate since they made that move. So since week 8, they were 24th in weeks 1 through 7. And its explosive pass rate, they went from 31st for the first 7 weeks to now 17th from the last 8 weeks, which I just think is interesting because for a while I just been like, yeah, Commanders defense bad at everything. Like attack Bobby Wagner, attack this, like, okay, their defensive front's pretty good, but now they're actually like, okay, they can hang in here. They're 14th in weighted DVOA. They get some pressure. Daron Payne, Johnny Newton, Frankie Louvu, Jonathan Allen finally looks like he's playing again. Like we talked about that last week, but now it looks like he is playing. But I did mention that they're not great defending the run, going against Bijan and this Falcons run offense, who are first in running back rushing success rate, going against the Commanders defense that's middle of the pack defending the run. Overall, they're bottom, but if you just look through from week 8 onwards, which I'm kind of going to look at for this, what I am curious, this is my little schematic thing with this. So because it just seems like the Falcons as a whole, where it's just like they have a good idea in the last 2 weeks and then they're like, move on to the next thing, like Kirk Cousins. But they after their bye week, they started doing a bunch of 2 tight end stuff. Like, so they had their bye week. They go 25 plays, 12 personnel against the Vikings, 33 plays, 12 personnel against the Raiders. It's like, okay, that's interesting. New little wrinkle of your offense. Then last week, 3 plays using it. And so it's like, are you guys just not using it now? Or I looked at injuries. I was like, okay, so you guys are just gone with it now. But I want to see if they get back into that, because the Commanders like to play nickel. That's what Dan Quinn loves to do, just base out of nickel. And they're not that good defending the run when offenses get with the big bodies. So that's something the Falcons could just easily do and make Penix's life a lot easier. I'm curious because pressure kind of unraveled Penix in college. He's not great when he gets moved off the launch point. If he can just 2.5 seconds to let it go, he's really good, like we saw last week. So, maybe some pressure gets there. You got to kind of make his life a little bit easier in that aspect. So that's what I'm going to be checking out for that. Other side, yeah, Falcons defense is a little bit improved, but I think this is going to be a really good game for Jane Daniels to kind of nickel and dime and run around a little bit, like you said. Like, I think, like, if they go tempo, the Falcons run a lot of cover 3. Like, that's kind of like their like panic call. Well, what the Commanders do when they get that is that's the go balls to Terry McLaurin. So, all right, we get Terry against non-AJ Terrell, and we go tempo, and we get single high, all right, boom, touchdown. Like, I already can picture that in my head. So I do think that this Falcons defense actually tackles pretty well underneath, but I just think the Commanders have a lot of nice natural answers. They can run the ball. Daniels can scramble. Falcons are okay against the scramble, but he can scramble. He can attack underneath. So I think they have some natural answers where it's not going to really hinder them at all. This game, like I mentioned before, Commanders are 4-point favorites at home. All right, who are you leaning here? Carter head here.
Commanders.
Yeah. I'm also going Commanders here.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels is able to make enough plays that just kind of kill you at the end, whether it's third down scrambles or a go ball, where maybe you can get him on first and second down, but the plays where his talent gets to shine and things can be tough for the defense.
Yeah. Well, and that actually, thank you for bringing that up. That's my last little stat on this was third downs are going to be huge in this game for that side of the ball. Commanders are so good at it because of, like we said, with Daniels running, they're very aggressive on 4th down. So he's willing to take it underneath throw on 3rd and 10 to get 7, because then they'll go for it on 4th and 3. Commanders are 28th third down defense. Falcons are 28th in 3rd down defense. Commanders are 6th in 3rd down conversion rate on offense and have the 6th shortest distance to go on 3rd down. So, yeah, for the Falcons, it's like, all right, make 1st and down as hard as possible because we're not going to win on 3rd down. So I think that's where it's going to go. But I'm also going with the Commanders here, and I'm also going to go with the cover. I think they'll win by a touchdown. All right, now, because it's week 17 and because that's how it kind of goes, we just did deep dives, but we're going to get into a dual slop watch for week 17.
Warning. This is a slop watch.
I'll wake you up. All right. This one was for me because I just found a stat. The first one, slop watch, we have Cowboys and Eagles. Eagles are almost a touchdown favorite, 6.5. But really, I just want to focus on the Cowboys defense, Eagles offense. Jalen Hurts did not practice, has his concussion. Kenny Pickett going against the Cowboys defense, and Micah Parsons has me a little antsy, has me a little apprehensive. I wanted to bring up a couple stats, though, before I jump it to you, was Micah Parsons, since he's returned in week 10, the Cowboys defense are 3rd in EPA per dropback allowed. They are tied for 2nd in QB pressures. They have 109 quarterback pressures since week 10. They're 5th in pressure rate. On 3rd down, they're 1st in pressure rate. 51% pressure rate on 3rd and 4th down since Micah Parsons has returned. 1st in EPA per dropback on 3rd and 4th down. They have allowed a quarterback rating. I'm going to use an old school boomer stat here, just old school quarterback rating. 46.7 is the quarterback rating against the Cowboys on 3rd and 4th down since Parsons has returned. Basically just turning every quarterback into like Bucks Jeff Garcia. Wow, that's a reference no one will remember. But man, Hurts has the longest time to throw, but it looks like he might not be playing. But Pickett's not great against pressure either. So I just wanted to kind of highlight this as could get weird. This could be a weird one, especially a divisional matchup and everything. So this is my slop watch for the week. Anything to add for this game, Charles?
Now, if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, I think the Cowboys could potentially win this.
Right.
Which is, you know, I'm not looking forward to watching Kenny Pickett against where this defense is right now, unless you're into just like sadism and sick stuff like that. There's
Where they want to run it 64 times. Yeah.
You really like
just
like, do you want to see chalk outlines of Kenny Pickett on the 50-yard line? I don't think. I think that's kind of sicko behavior, to be honest with you. But that's why it's a stopwatch. I don't really have too much out of that. Dallas defense, they're going to need to show up if I think if they want to have any prayer of winning this game. I know it's not. They've already been eliminated from the playoffs, but still, it's fun to just beat up on your division rivals whenever you get the chance. So. Yeah, you're going to need Micah Parsons to do his best impression, because especially Lawrence Taylor impression, because I don't know if Cooper Rush has the goods to get past his Eagles defense. Not quite sure about that.
That's where my brain's at. You said Lawrence Taylor, and I was like, oh yeah, Belichick might be the Packers head coach next year. It's like, oh yeah, he's at North Carolina right now.
No.
And Mike McCarthy and they've already dropping hints that Mike McCarthy might be returning, and Doug Peterson might. What's going on with the Jaguars, by the way? It's like, are they just?
I don't know, man.
Are they just trying to make us all forget like that we get amnesia? Which actually most of the public might, but I'm not. No. What are you guys doing down there? Because you can't run this back. You cannot do it. This is a slop watch. But of course, the Eagles defense is very good. Cowboys offense run game's been great actually lately. So they might have some answers there. Keep it close. I think this game is just gonna be a little. I'm feeling wonkiness in this. Can we maybe see some Tanner McKee for the Eagles, please? Maybe see him out there. Get the old Stanford gunslinger with his funky motion out there. All right, our other game for the dual slop watch. Divisional matchup. You hinted at this one. We have Panthers at Bucks. Bucks are 8-point favorites. This is really just Panthers run offense versus the Bucks run defense. Bucks are top 3. They're second in early down rushing success rate allowed. Of course, that's the Vita Vea stat. 6th in the explosive runs allowed, 9th in rushing DVOA. Panthers are essentially top 10 in rushing stats, especially if you look at lately. 8th in early down success rate, 15th in DVOA. But I actually think there's a little delay there. I think they're going to be improving as the season goes along. But this one is just it's interesting because the Bucks need this. And the Panthers have been very frisky lately, even when they've been losing or winning against the Cardinals last week. I just wanted to highlight this as that's a pretty fun little mini Haas fight, undercard Haas fight of the Panthers offense and Bucks defense. Anything on this game, Charles, to wrap up the slop watch?
It's a huge game for the Bucks, who, they kind of falconed it last week, and they blew their they don't own their playoff destiny anymore.
Their destiny, yeah.
After losing last week,
they botched their destiny.
They botched their destiny, man. After the Falcons botched their destiny, so maybe we need to get.
You take it.
Right. Maybe we need to get rid of the NFC South, or just go to straight top 7 teams from each conference make the playoffs. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Just get rid of the division winner tie-ins. Because I feel like if the Lions go 14-3, isn't it kind of sick that they would have to go to Atlanta for a playoff game? I don't know. It's kind of it feels a little wrong to me. But with this game, it's only interesting really because of the seeding and the hospital, like you said. If the Buccaneers lose this game and the Falcons manage to win against the Commanders, that's the last division race inside the NFC West that needs to be cleared up. So there's some stakes. People are really, 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 really in on this Bryce Young thing a lot more than I thought that even I was at start. I was like, oh, look, he's making some throws. But I think people convince themselves that he's actually a top 10-ish quarterback or fringe top 10 quarterback. But we're
better
working with
Stroud now. That's what I'm hearing.
It's definitely not just people kind of reacting to training wheels they didn't know they have in their head, because he had been quite literally one of the worst quarterbacks to ever step foot on an NFL field. And the fact that he is functional and playable now, I think people have taken it a little bit too far, but still another big chance to kind of keep adding good film and good tape this week for him if they can get a win over Tampa Bay.
And he's shown that he can, Bryce Young is that he can find some answers against the blitz, which actually was like, when I was watching that Cardinals game, I was like, stop blitzing him because you're just making it easy on him. And now he goes against Todd Bowles. So it's another blitz happy team that he can maybe find, and he'll probably get some third and longs that he has to face because maybe that, that run defense steps up for the Bucs. I do think people are getting a little exaggerated with it, especially when I look at the stats and it looks like Desmond Ridder from 2023, and they're both in year 2, and I'm just trying to figure out where we're going here with it, but he has been playable. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's actually like a functional offense, and they're doing a nice job. There's still some pieces away, but I enjoy the offensive line. I enjoy Chuba Hubbard, enjoy what's going on with that passing game. Tommy Tremble, having a nice little year, enjoying what's going on in Carolina, but yeah, they're a few steps away and everything, but I think this will be a pretty fun matchup. All right, that's it for our deep dives, our slop watch, all that fun stuff. We're going to get to a mailbag question right now. Remember, if you submit a review on Apple Podcasts, you jump to the front of the line for our mailbag questions. That's where this one is from. Or you can send an email to football301mailbag@yahoosports.com. And, you still might be up there in the line. I'm not saying that you just get cut off completely. So keep sending those in, but also just rate us 5 stars on Apple. That'd be really nice. But getting to one of those reviews and one of those questions, I really like this one. This was from Matt Marquardt. I believe I got that. If motion tells the offense whether coverage is man or zone, why don't teams use motion on every play? If it's so simple to incorporate, why doesn't every team do it? All right. Well, I'll get a few things here. There's different types of motion. First off, receiver short motion, tight end cross motion. There's jet motion. There's shifts, which is a guy moves, and then there's motion, and then there's motion at the snap. All these things are different. It's not a magic wand thing, but it does make life easier, especially in the pass game, kind of figure out some things. It's not always, defenses have gotten really good defending motion. So I'll start there. It's not as simple as a guy travels, it's man coverage. Or a guy travels, it's zone coverage. Defenses have gotten good at disguising that. Defenses have match rules where a guy will travel sometimes, depending on passing strength. It's a balance. Why you don't want a motion is it changes the picture on the offensive line and the quarterback. So they have in their head have to figure out what that final look is going to be. If you're static, it's a lot easier. Just go, okay, you're here, you're here. All right, that defender's moving. Okay, that's weird because we're static. I know you're moving. If we're moving on offense and the defense is moving, it's just a lot to kind of compute for the quarterback. It can also make protections a little weaker because you can't use things like cadence. You can't let the quarterback really kind of get to things. This is the big thing happening in the split in the NFL right now between Shanahan offenses and non-Shanahan offenses, and then the hybrid guys like McVay, the Packers with LaFleur, and letting their quarterbacks kind of handle a little bit. Or you got the Dolphins, you got the 49ers where the quarterback doesn't handle any of it. Is all that motion takes time. So you have to get the cadence going. You have to get going on it. If you're static, you can let the quarterback kind of be the sheriff and point everything out. That's why the Bengals don't use motion. And I know Bengals fans hate it, but Joe Burrow is going to want this for the rest of his life. He's going to point everything out and not motion. So that's just the give and take of why you don't want to use motion. It can just make things a little hard on the picture. Defenses can game it up a little bit if they're really keyed in on it. And it can kind of limit your protections and your cadence, kind of some of the other tools you can use on offense. But yeah, that's motion. But it does really help you out and kind of changing the picture on the defense if you use it correctly, and it can kind of change the angles of attack, change guys at the snap of the ball to get into the routes and everything, which we see kind of weekly right now. Any thoughts on motion, Chuck, or as a defensive tackle where you're just like, there's that guy running across my face?
That's how I used to look at it for sure. If a wide receiver's running across, bro, that ain't got to do with me. Tight end, my
you saw the quarterback move his foot, and you're just like, yep, that's it.
No, I forget what's called, but the Titans, not Titans, the Falcons, they do this motion all the time with Charlie Warner. The tight end they just signed where he motions into the middle of like the offensive line and hits someone. Those are the ones I used to pay attention to. The other ones,
wiped out from the side, yeah.
Or if we're like changing like the strength on a running play, I'm paying attention to that. But the other ones, not so much. The idea of time is something that I've thought about a lot, especially over the past couple of years where. Like we've seen all the influx of Shanahan guys, but I think the one that I thought about it the most was when it was covering that the Chiefs Dolphins playoff game, and I thought that Tua actually gave a really good answer when I asked him about I was like, you guys are you guys have so many plays where you're just about to get a delay of game. And when you're not, like, you're getting the ball off in 1 second. And this happened to them when they played the Eagles that year and the Chiefs. But like, they're getting the ball off in 1 second and just getting rocked like after the snap. Like, they have no answers for what's happening. And then I thought that Tua had a good answer for that, talking about the Chiefs blitzes and how they were able to get them back in that playoff game. Said, quote, "Am I hearing the right information? We're getting out, but we have 2 motions that we have to use. So it's maybe 9 seconds on the clock. We're motioning. It's about 5 seconds left on the clock. We don't have time to change. Now we got to play and we got to throw where our hots will be," which is exactly where they pressured. Chiefs defense coordinator Steve Spagnuolo had a great plan, which is what happens. If you're going to motion every single play, you're probably going to get to a point, a handful of times a game where you're at the clock, right? You're about to get a delay of game. And as soon as you snap it, if you don't have time to change anything and the defense knows that you don't have time to change anything, that's how you can get, some like interceptions underneath that we see, or sacks, instant pressures where quarterbacks don't have time to make a change or to protect themselves from danger. So that's why you can't motion every play. And also there's just it's just a repetition thing. If a defense were to see motion every single time they went out there, you would lose effectiveness of it, and they would have rules on how to beat it, even better than
it's like an RPG.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's effective. And then the opponent gets used to it. And sometimes it's super effective, that's what it is. But it loses effectiveness the more you use it. It's just kind of how it goes. It's why you can't throw the ball every time. But no, the protection stuff and what you're talking about, the Tua stuff, that's exactly it. Because I've never been in a Shanahan offense. I know it well. But how I've been taught college and then NFL and then also with my dad's stuff is that the quarterback and the center figure it all out. Because they use so much motion, the Shanahan offenses, they just take it away from the quarterback because they say that ruins the rhythm of everything. So we everything that we design, everything is going to be built in. Your answers are all built in, the hots and everything. While the other way of thinking is, okay, quarterback stops everything. Oh, I'm going to signal a hot. I'm going to signal a side adjust. I'm going to change the play. And Shanahan offenses can do a little of this, but it's just different tools that you can use to kind of figure this all out. So that's a very good point to bring up with the Tua answer. But yeah, that's motion. It's good and bad. Sometimes it's neither. But what you said, if they get used to all the motion too, watch Shanahan offenses sometimes when they just don't use it and they just snap on the quick. Sometimes their best plays are that. Because the defenses, don't worry, they're going to motion. We got time to get set. All right, where are they at? Oh, shoot. Oh, and all of a sudden they have to defend. So sometimes you change it up on them and you can find some good answers.
I said back in 2016, I remember one of the Falcons' best plays was when they would just run up to the line and throw a screen like Julio or Taylor Gabriel, and those were some of their most explosive plays. They also had a really high pressure rate that season, which I think probably goes back to some of the underlying issues.
Yeah. And the biggest signing for that team was Alex Mack. I mean, because I remember that 2015 center, I'm forgetting his name right now, which is mean, but he was so bad. Yes, really nice guy. He was so bad that it was like, it crippled the whole offense. I mean, it really did. And then they get Alex Mack and it's like, wow, this is great. You have to have a really smart center to do that though. But sorry, I know this is just extending all this, but this is what they had to do. They had to give Matt Ryan controls. This is what LaFleur had to do with Rodgers and give him controls of the offense. He had to hybrid it a little bit. And guess what? They were really good. All right. Now we're closing it out today. That was our Week 17 preview. Charles and I will be back on Sunday with the 5th quarter to recap these Sunday games, the weekend games, I should say. I am Nate Tice. You can find me at Nate_Tice on Twitter or Nate Tice on Blue Sky. Charles, where can they find you on social media?
For Verts, Twitter, Blue Sky, you know the deal.
You know the deal. Exactly. Like I said before, subscribe to us, follow us, rate us 5 stars. If not 5 stars, just yell at us. It's the holiday season. Don't yell at us. Just 5 stars or nothing. Watch us on YouTube.
Yell. I won't
the
see
Yahoo
it,
Sports.
Not till next week.
I'm getting pretty good at ignoring everything. Watch us on YouTube as well. The Yahoo Sports YouTube channel. Check out all our content. Plenty of great stuff on there. Thanks to Brett and Stone behind the scenes. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you all for listening. See you guys on Sunday.